Awesome. Well, hi everybody. We're really glad to be here with you today. My name is Anna Clara Blesso. I work as Associate Director at the Center for Career Development. I focus on experiential learning and career coaching. As part of Internship and Co-op Week, we're really excited to be here with Christina from Indeed. So we're going to talk a little bit about interviewing, about some strategies, so you'll get the inside scoop today in this little segment that we're hosting. So Christina, let's kick it off. Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and the path that led you to your career at Indeed?
Sure. So I actually am a UConn alum, so go Huskies. Great. I'm
Woo!
happy to be here. And I started looking for jobs at career fairs, just as most students do. And I went to our fall career fair at UConn and I met Indeed. So I met with a few of the employees who work at Indeed there and just kind of talked to them about their experience and wound up one of my friends who worked with me at Husky Tech also worked for Indeed, so she was there. So she referred me, and I actually started at Indeed in July of 2015, 2 months after I graduated, which was very crazy but awesome at the same time.
Yeah.
And I started in our client success department. So client success is really just working directly with our clients, answering any questions they have, kind of being that product expert to ensure that they're getting the most out of utilizing Indeed. So I did client success for a little over, 2.5 years, and then I moved over to our university recruiting team. So that's where I am now. And the great thing about my job is that I'm able to give back and help students, just as those workers who were at Indeed's table when I was a senior helped me. So that's my story.
So you are a success story from a career fair.
Yeah.
So go to career fairs. And you're a success story from networking.
Exactly.
Because you knew somebody who worked there.
Yeah.
So go network, people. Very important. So for students who might not know, what is Indeed and how would you describe the platform? Like, what does it do?
Yeah, so Indeed is the #1 job site. So really to describe it in simple terms, it's going to be a one-stop shop just to find a job. So we have a pretty plain and simple platform. You go on Indeed.com, there's a what and a where box. You can type in, a job title that you're interested in, maybe a field you're interested in, and of course a location. And then from there, you get results based on relevancy. And job seekers have a ton of resources on Indeed. It's not just searching for a job. We do have, resume tips. We have an Indeed blog. We have a whole job seeker help section. So it's really kind of that one-stop shop to help our job seekers get jobs. We even have reviews for companies. So really just anything you're looking for to help you in the job search is going to be on Indeed.
Yeah. And at the Center for Career Development, we have a resource called Husky Career Link, powered by Handshake, which students can use as well. But I definitely recommend checking out Indeed just to make sure that you get all of the opportunities that are available to you. You've been in Indeed for a little while now. What has kept you there? How would you describe that culture?
Yeah, so I hope to never leave Indeed. It's great. What really keeps me at Indeed is just the people that I'm surrounded by every day and the work that I'm doing. So I always just love the fact that I'm a part of a mission that's really impactful. So our mission is we help people get jobs, and we really do just that. So being able to really positively impact people's day-to-day lives in helping find someone a job is huge. So that's something that keeps me there. And then just the people I'm surrounded by, my team, my coworkers, everyone is so supportive, very helpful, collaborative. We're always able to really just kind of help each other get to that end goal. So that's something that I really value about Indeed.
Yeah, I've never engaged with someone from your team that has been unhappy or miserable or snappy, so I really appreciate that. You're lovely to work with.
Thank you, so are you.
Oh, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about preparing for interviews. Lots of students have interviews coming up for summer internships, post-graduation, full-time jobs, research, all kinds of things. When students are interviewing with you, what information do you expect them to know when they walk in the door?
Yeah, so I would say they should know a lot about the company. So do your research, do your homework on the company, find out, of course, like our mission, what our values are, what we do. That's really important just to kind of have that background. And then even just going that step further, I always think it's great when students tell me, oh, I read like the Indeed blog, or, I researched the company, and I found this about it. So just doing your research, looking for more than just that surface level, I think is really something that's great. And it definitely helps just give you an idea as a student what kind of questions you should be asking as the interview progresses.
Yeah. In your opinion, how would you describe that prepared interviewer or interviewee? Or on the flip side, how would you describe somebody who is clearly walked in and is not prepared?
Yeah, so I would say someone who's prepared is just, they know how, first of all, the role that they're applying for, they understand what they can bring to the table, and being able to be prepared to talk about that, because that is going to be a huge part of your interview, no matter, this is of course just from, my opinion, but just no matter where you're, looking to interview, they're going to want to know why you think you're the best person for the job. So having that kind of set in stone, that foundation, is going to be very helpful. And then of course, just as I mentioned earlier, just doing your research on the company and being able to really ask questions to the interviewers that are impactful questions. So I think those are two really important things. And then of course, things that you can see when someone is not prepared for an interview is just they might not even know they're interviewing for a specific company. That's always a hard one.
That's not a good look.
And a lot of these, the first initial interviews are usually phone interviews. So, you're definitely able to have your notes there and get that preparedness. But I think just someone who just really doesn't show their passion for the job itself and the company, that'll come across that they're not prepared, or, they're not interested.
Yeah. So. Bottom line, we're going to prepare, and we're going to show that we are interested in that company.
Yes.
And we're going to know what company we're interviewing with.
Exactly.
Yes. Awesome. So we talked a little bit about preparing. Let's talk now about what success looks like really in practice. How do you think students can successfully convey their skills during an interview?
That's a great question. So I would say really the best way to convey your skills is having those skills that are apparent and needed for the job, and having examples of how you put that into practice in some way. Whether it's, an extracurricular, a job on campus, a club that you're in your classes, like anything that can tie back to, okay, these are the essential skills needed for the job, and having examples so that you're able to speak to that. I know, if you think about a way to problem solve, for example. So if you're going to tell a story, just make sure it has that holistic view of okay, this was what I needed to do, this is how I took action, and this is the result. So having that story is definitely going to really tend well to a recruiter asking you, hey, can you tell me a time about, or those behavioral questions that you get. Having those up front will definitely help you prepare to have those conversations.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard of a behavioral question before, those are the ones that start with, tell me about a time when, give me an example of. And when I'm working with students, Christina, sometimes students will give me questions like, I don't have a lot of experience in this field yet. What are your thoughts on students talking about classroom experiences or kind of unrelated roles, campus leadership or volunteering? Do you think those can be really valuable too?
Absolutely. I think any, kind of extracurriculars or classroom training that you have, it just shows that even though you don't maybe have all of the skills, you're really just showcasing the skills that you do have and how you put them to practice in some way. Even if it's if you're talking about time management or organization and you were a babysitter, you can totally take those skills and, showcase them. It's just a matter of thinking about, okay, what are the essential skills and what have I done throughout my time to showcase those?
Yeah, and I mean, even babysitting, that means somebody trusted their kids with you.
Exactly. People don't always think, a lot of students don't feel like, oh, I just babysat, or I just did this. That's not the case. Every skill that you have and every experience has something that's going to be successful and relatable to, the world. So
anybody who's been a waitress knows how hard of a
yes.
position that is, how challenging. What do you think is most important for students to speak on during an interview?
I think it's really important for them to talk about why they're the best fit for the job and why they're the best fit for the company as well. So just explaining anything and everything that, can tend back to that job description or that job specifically is really helpful. Just because you're going to be able to say like, hey, I know that I need to be able to be really good at Excel. Well, in, my senior seminar, I led my group and we had to use Excel on this. So just really having those, skills and being able to talk to them is super important to be successful.
Concrete examples, it sounds like, too.
Yes.
Are there any tactics that you've seen students use during interviews that really help them stand out?
Yeah, so I would say just, again, it goes back to that being prepared. I think that really just resonates a lot with recruiters and, hiring managers who are interviewing candidates. The more prepared they are, the more they know about the company, the more impactful questions they ask, just really shows that they're really actually interested and they actually want the job. Definitely don't say you're only having an internship or applying for this role because you need it to graduate or things like that. Those are some of the things that you want to avoid doing those. Just because it doesn't really show why you're looking at that company or that specific role.
Right. It's almost like when you're walking into an interview, you want that company to think they are your top choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if they might not be. They don't need to know that.
Yeah. And it's a lot of just not only, you selling yourself on the company, but the company has to, sell themselves to you as well. So it's a mutual, relationship. And I think really it always goes back to, yes, you want to love the company, but the role itself that you're applying for is something you really want to make sure that they understand why, you want this position.
Yeah. Let's go back to talking about what doesn't work.
Okay.
So some mistakes that you've seen students make. I have been a career coach for a little while now, and at another institution, this was not at UConn that I worked at previously, there was a student who was engaging, just as an example, in a video interview, and this poor person did not realize that the video interview was a video interview. He thought it was just his voice that was being recorded, and so he was just not prepared and looked not prepared for a video interview at all. So I guess, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen students make besides not being prepared for whatever medium that interview is taking place in?
Kind of what I mentioned earlier, of course, making sure you know what company you're interviewing for.
Have you had people actually say?
I have.
No, you haven't.
I have.
Oh, come on.
I'm sure every company has.
I'm sure.
It's okay. It happens, but I hope it doesn't.
Ever again. Okay. So know where, know the method.
Exactly.
I'm sure time zones. You've gotten the wrong time zone before.
Oh yeah, we've had those mistakes, but those are
forgivable?
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay. I think at the end of the day, it's like we understand, especially as university recruiters, just from my perspective as a person, I was in their shoes at one point. I understand how stressful it could be to interview. I understand that, it takes a lot of time and effort, and your time is valuable. You're juggling classes with trying to go to career fairs and trying to interview. So totally understand those situations, but you definitely just want to make sure that, you're professional, you're, being, prepared for, again, the interview, and then, of course, just really showcasing, all that you have to make sure that, you're memorable.
And I will say this, not all recruiters are going to be as forgiving with some of those mistakes either, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
If a role asks for attention to detail and you don't look at the time zone,
yes,
that's not a good look.
No.
So
spelling errors.
Oh, no.
Those are our favorite, going back to those. But
yeah.
They happen. But just, I think the best thing to do is just be really, careful and detail-oriented during interviews. I think that's the best thing. You can even confirm, triple confirm, just make sure everything is ready to go. I think, too, if you're doing a video interview, as you mentioned earlier, make sure it's in a place where no one's going to interrupt you or your phone's not going to go off. Just trying to find that space and plan ahead. So, find that space ahead of time. Make sure that, all of the Wi-Fi and everything works. Just as prepared as you can be will just make you more successful throughout the interview process.
Great tips. Once again, prepare. So, you talked a little bit about Indeed's culture before. And the importance of students also interviewing a company when they show up for maybe an on-site interview or even a phone interview. What do you think students should look for when they go to an in-person interview specifically? How did you determine that kind of Indeed's culture was a good fit from what you saw when you visited?
Yeah, so I always really looked for, and this was kind of throughout my entire, interviewing process, through the beginning of senior year all the way until April when I wound up getting my full-time offer. Just really ensuring that the company that you're interviewing with or the one that you want to work for, kind of ties back to, of course, your own values and what you're looking for. Do they do a lot of like community service work? That's something that I really valued in a company. And did they give back? Were they good to their employees? Things like that. So those were things that stood out to me about Indeed. Also, too, just what the core company stands for itself. As I mentioned earlier, I really love that I was able to work for, and still am able to work for, a company that I believe in their mission and I believe what they're doing. So that's huge. And that might not be something you see, just in the office, but you can definitely figure that out as you're interviewing with the company. Just from my personal experience as a senior, I did leave one interview crying.
No!
Not with Indeed, with another company. And I won't name names, of course, but you just want to make sure that you feel your best. You want to make sure that you're going to be able to go into work every day, do 100%, and, feel 100%. So I think that's what I really looked for. And, of course, I had friends who worked there, so it was easy. I could ask them questions. That's why networking is so important, because you're able to really kind of ask those questions that maybe you're not too comfortable asking the recruiter right up front. But it'll give you a good, way to do that. Also, just looking online, finding, some information about the company, looking at their website. They'll always, most companies will add what they offer to employees, what kind of makes them stand out as a company. So
value statement, that kind of thing.
Exactly, mission statements, all of that fun stuff. So
awesome. I think one of the biggest questions I get as a career coach is students will go to an interview, they think it went pretty well, but then what do they do next? So how do you recommend that students follow up after an interview?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I would say, of course, sending an email to thank the interviewers. That's super important. If you are unable to get their emails just from there, always you can reach out to the recruiter and just say, hey, can you pass this along? Okay. Those are great resources there too. Also too, I think this goes a long way. Sending a thank you note handwritten is super great.
You recommend both?
I do.
Yeah.
I think that with this day and age, of course, everything's so quick. Email, of course, is going to be the fastest way of communicating with the company, but I also think it doesn't hurt to send that thank you card.
Yep.
And then if you haven't heard back, just maybe following up with the recruiter, checking in here and there with the recruiter, just saying, hey, just wanted to check, wanted to reaffirm my interest, things like that. So those are good ways to kind of keep on keeping after the interview itself.
Yeah. I had somebody tell me one time, and I really appreciated this, that you should send a thank you email that same day. Wait a couple of hours so it doesn't look like you're just crossing something off a to-do list, right? Because you want to look authentically grateful. But always, even if you think you bombed the interview, always thank them for their time. The recruiting world is really small, so y'all talk. Y'all are friends. I know this. Y'all talk to each other. Any other last minute tips you have for our students while we have you here today?
Yeah, so I would just say, I know the fair is coming up and, things like that. And, even after the fair, you're going to be able to really take what you've learned from this and also kind of put it forward. So whether you're looking for a full-time job or you're looking for an internship, meet everyone at the fair. Definitely, if you found a company that you really enjoyed speaking with and you got contact info, just sending them a thank you as well, even if it's not a formal interview.
Yeah.
That's super important. And then being able to say, hey, is there any action items you need from me? Should I apply to a role? Just kind of following up on that conversation you had at the fair, I think is super important as well.
Yeah.
And then again, just being prepared, being organized. If you are applying to multiple companies, I know I did this senior year. I had an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I wrote them all down. I knew who I was interviewing with, what I was interviewing for, just to keep yourself organized. I know it's a lot. You're applying to a lot of different jobs, a lot of probably different companies. So just keeping yourself organized, I say, is the biggest thing that you can do.
Yeah, I can imagine you've probably gotten cover letters that had the wrong company listed. I know I've gotten emails from vendors who try to sell UConn things, and it'll say, we can't wait to work at or to work with Fordham.
Yeah.
BU. It's like, that's nice.
Exactly.
I don't know anybody there, but that's nice.
Yeah. Just
So,
make it personal details. Always triple check.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, everyone, I think, especially at UConn and the CCD, is willing to go that extra step and help students. So utilizing them as a resource. I know I loved Husky Career Link coming to get my resume reviewed.
Yeah.
It was really helpful for me when I was in school. So definitely take advantage of, the perks that UConn has to offer, because I think there's a lot out there that maybe students don't always realize is available to them. So, always asking those questions to the CCD, just being able to really kind of get ahead of, the interviewing game, I guess. Not really a game, but
the competition.
It's a lot of work, and getting ahead and being prepared, I think, is going to set you up for success no matter what.
Yeah. Well, to everybody watching right now, there's a couple next steps that I recommend. Husky Career Link is available right on the CCD's website. It's career.uconn.edu. You can also schedule an appointment with a career coach like myself or one of my wonderful colleagues right through that website too. It's really easy. And you can also see all of our events. So we have 3 fairs in the spring. We are busy.
You're busy.
So if you see us running around, that is why. We have a nonprofit and service fair coming up. We have a large career fair in Gamble. There's so much happening. So be sure to attend those events as well. But thank you for visiting with us today, Christina.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back at UConn and happy to help students. So
we're going to go get some Dairy Bar now.
Yes, we are.
Okay.